Welcome, everybody. Really, truly excited to present this to you and update you all on the collaboration that we're moving forward with Regenstrief and in particular LOINC. So I'm going to go through kind of the high level, why we've done this, where we are, what the proposed solution is. Then I'm going to pass it over to my esteemed colleague here, Marjorie, and she's got some questions that she's going to pose to our experts sitting here, Rory and Stan, things we believe you will want to know. And then we're also going to open up for questions in the audience. Okay. Okay. I promise the solution that we're going to talk about isn't good, won't do this. Okay, you'll catch up to me. Perfect. I'm going to step up. So a little bit of background for everybody. In 2013, we signed an agreement with Regenstrief. We opened up discussions around a collaboration. We knew that we wanted to do something with the LOINC standard. We knew we wanted to come up with some type of a solution that our users in particular that were using SNOMED and LOINC could use the standards together. The two main areas of that old agreement were some enforcement around non-duplication. So LOINC is funded to develop the observable content, and we're funded to do clinical content. And so that agreement recognized that. The second thing was a deliverable, the creation of an expression map. Now, an expression map is a little bit different than a regular map, and we did that work. And what we found over the years as we monitored is that anybody that tried to implement it was having difficulty, and really smart technical people that were trying to implement were having difficulty doing so. And we weren't getting much uptake on the map either. So as many of you would know, in 2020, SNOMED International developed a new strategy. Part of that strategy was that we would become a hub for standards. So it was never that SNOMED CT would have everything in it. It was always that we would enter into these collaborations and come up with how standards could interoperate together. In the last couple of years, we've heard our community, we need something for pathology in particular. We need something. What are you going to do? And we had this agreement in place that really didn't allow SNOMED International to put pathology into the international release. So we started doing a little bit of work, and certainly the Campbells did some work on the cancer side. And if we had more than a couple of countries, we were able to do that. But we still needed, there was no way that we were going to embark on building this all ourselves. We didn't want to duplicate what was already funded, but we wanted to make sure that we leveraged public resources appropriately. And we were having discussions with Regenstrief, and the old agreement really wasn't working for them either. It wasn't working for us. It wasn't working for them. So how do we, I guess I should catch up now, eh? Can I? I'm pressing it. Nothing's moving. I have a really good presentation here, you guys. I promise you. I promise you. Anyways, I'm going to keep going. So it wasn't working for both of us. So what we decided is let's sit down, let's talk about what we really want to, talk about what we really want to do. Oh, okay, there we are. We're working now. I'm on slide 4. Okay. Point where? Oh, okay. Really? Here? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, okay. Apparently it's the human person, me. So what we really wanted to do was we wanted to improve health and better care through standardized terminology. We wanted to help with the interoperability of using both the standards, provide effective support to the users of LOINC and SNOMED CT together. So one of the things you'll probably see as deliverables is that we'll come together with some implementation guides on how you would use the solution that we're going to propose. We wanted to support providers who implement either SNOMED CT or LOINC. So we have to respect the people that just use SNOMED CT. We have to respect the users that LOINC has that'll just use LOINC. And so making sure that we don't disrupt what they're doing already, and just support the uptake of both of the standards. Next slide. So we entered into agreement, and so, you know, I was sitting at the GA and we were talking about this, and they said, what changed? Like, what made this? Because it happened pretty quickly, really. And I said, you know what? We got in a room and face to face and had a discussion about what a solution should be. And honest to goodness, we did that in like in a day and a half, about 3 months ago, and boom, you know, we got it done. And so I think, you know, love all this technology and stuff, but sometimes you just got to get in a room and look at the whites of the eyes of the other people and come up with a solution together. And that's really how we got to where we were. And so we set up some shared goals, you know, the ability to distribute the LOINC content to both the users, the ability to create SNOMED CT and LOINC codes for concepts that are shared. So that's a new thing going forward, making it easier for implementers, obviously, to have a unified approach, and then provide a solution that meets both clinical and the regulatory requirements. We can't forget about that. Next slide. So what was the solution? Well, if any of you heard me heard the updates of the community updates that Jane and Susie gave around collaborations, we have a couple different ways that we do it, and this is a new one. So this is a LOINC extension. So this is in our community area. It's going to contain LOINC content as an ontology using the SNOMED, using a model that can interoperate with the SNOMED CT model. The purpose is to divide labor. So for instance, if we have users that come forward needing some of the observable content, we can have, now we've got a much bigger pool to work with Regenstrief to find out who has capacity, resources, and the ability to move this stuff forward and perhaps deliver quicker to the customers. SNOMED CT and LOINC identifiers for every concept that's in both environments. So it'll have both. So if you're a LOINC user and you're used to the LOINC, you'll have the LOINC. If you're SNOMED, you'll have the SNOMED, and you'll know that you're talking about the same thing. Where appropriate, obviously, Regenstrief is, you know, they're the observable experts, right? And so we're going to want to leverage that expertise at SNOMED CT, and we've got some experts sitting in our pathology group as well. And where possible, we'll try and consolidate that or leverage the learnings from one working group to the other and bring forward all of that wonderful knowledge. The extension itself will be owned and maintained by Regenstrief. So it is their LOINC extension. Extension, as many of you know, and I will go this deep into this, and there's lots of technical people that can talk about this, but it's attached to our international release. So it's linked. Any concept in the LOINC extension can be promoted into the international edition if it makes sense, and you know, vice versa going forward. So that's going to be really allow interoperability a lot more. And we're at early stages. So I am thrilled to announce that the agreement has been executed as of last night. It has been signed, and we are so excited. So now the work begins. We will be doing a proof of concept to figure out how we move forward with this. I wanted to just point out when we met face to face, there wasn't just the four of us. There was other members of our teams and other members of Regenstrief's team, and I think everybody put in a lot of work, and I just like to give them all a round of applause for getting to where we are. As I look out at the community, I see a lot of people who have a lot of expert in both these terminologies, and we will definitely be reaching out to you to get guidance and get input as we move down this pilot project. So I think if we go to next slides, some of the benefits, as you would know, you know, both standards using a more similar format is useful, obviously. Providing an easy one-to-one map. And then just kind of like, you know, leveraging, like I said, leveraging that expertise and not reinventing, not rebuilding what's already there is just going to be a huge win. I think as I listen to the discussions that are going on with regards to ICD-11 right now and the terminologies and this need to not invest twice, I think this really shows as well an approach to sticking to that type of principle. So very, very excited about that. So this extension solution has been offered to other types of standards. We're hoping that the LOINC one, as it's going first, will be able to leverage a lot of learnings as we offer it as a potential solution to other standards that potentially we'll want to integrate with. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Marjorie. She's going to ask our experts some questions that I'm sure you guys are thinking about. And then, like I said, we'll have some questions for time from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley, and good afternoon, everyone. As you know, I'm Marjorie Rallins, the Executive Director for LOINC and Health Data Standards at the Regenstrief Institute. We are absolutely thrilled with this collaboration. It's an important collaboration. It's a true collaboration. It's a necessary collaboration. So as Shelley said, we're going to go over some questions that came or rose to the surface as we were redesigning the collaboration arrangement between SNOMED International and Regenstrief. So what we're going to do is actually pose these questions to our esteemed terminology experts and colleagues, Stan, Huff, and Rory Davidson, and then we'll also take some questions from you as they arise. So the first question is, when do you expect the LOINC extension to be available? And Rory, why don't you take this one? Introduce yourself and you take this question.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rory Davidson, Chief Information Officer at SNOMED International. I like the fact I get the question that you can hang me on when you don't meet the timelines. I think we're in early days. As we said, we've gone through the hard parts of getting signatures on paper and everybody on the same path. We have a proof of concept and some planning to do now. We'd hope to do that. We were just talking about maybe getting the teams together in one room again before the end of the year to do that kind of proof of concept and work out where we go. There are multiple strategies and how we do this. There's always strategies in SNOMED, and I'm sure it's exactly the same in LOINC. I think we expect to get into the real bulk of the work in 2023, and we will be updating both communities when it starts to be clear what will become available. We'd love to be able to do it in iterations where we can. So yes, we'll be working very closely together with joint teams and, as Shelley said, leading out the expertise around the room and elsewhere.
Thank you. And actually, I think I would like for you to take question number 2. So if an organization requests a new observable concept, who creates the concept?
I think this is part of the nature of an extension. So it's a two-way answer. So if you as a user or implementer or a country are using the LOINC extension, then you would go to the Regenstrief team directly to request that new content. If you're not, as that is also an option, then you would come to the SNOMED International team. And one of the things we need to put in place is a workflow and process to make sure we lean on the subject matter expertise with the LOINC team to make sure that we do it in the right place and work out where it goes. So it's a workflow, but if you are using LOINC extension, it will be directly to the Regenstrief team.
Okay. And so thank you very much for that. Stan, I'd like for you to take the next 2 questions. If you could introduce yourself. I think most people know you, but maybe not. So
Stan Huff, currently with Graphite Health, but I've been a long-term co-chair of the LOINC committee with Clem McDonald. And going back far enough, a lot of SNOMED experience, actually probably before most of you were involved. I was back in the days with Roger Cote and that crew. And David Rothwell instead of David Markwell. So that's a long time ago. But love to be here and grateful. So question 3.
Would you like me to read it?
No,
you got it?
I got it. An important part of the collaboration and maybe one of the sticky points was in the first agreement was, I think there was a lot of concern, maybe paranoia about LOINC being swallowed up and not being able to do the things that it wanted to do. And so the idea now is we want to have LOINC codes or SNOMED codes for every LOINC code. But what we need to do is clearly brand this extension as LOINC so that people understand the LOINC, the work that LOINC is doing. And that's most important, not for personal sort of praise or other things, but so that funding sources know that they need to still fund LOINC to do work. So that's really critical to us. So yeah, I mean, when you're using a SNOMED code that corresponds to a LOINC code, you're using LOINC and you're using SNOMED. I mean, you're not going to argue about who's using what. What's important is that people realize that the work needs to be funded, and we want to clearly do that. And then yeah, it's so. Is it an electron? Is it a wave? It's particle or a wave? It's LOINC and SNOMED.
That's right. All right, and then there's the next question. Is the extension content included in the international release of SNOMED CT? Stan, you take it. Stan, you
Rory, you
want
want to?
Yeah.
Oh, you're probably more knowledgeable.
Oh, okay. No. I mean, it was a quick one, really, but yeah. So just to clarify, I mean, obviously, most of you know how extensions work in SNOMED. This is no different to a classic extension. And, just echoing Stan's point, this is LOINC being represented using the SNOMED model. It's not SNOMED LOINC or SNOILOINC or SNOINC or LOMED. So it's very much another representation of LOINC. So yes, it's a separate extension.
Okay. Stan, maybe either one, but as a member with an existing extension, how could I include this LOINC content in my release? Stan, you want that one, or we have more questions after this? I think that Stan might want to answer.
You got to find easier questions for me. I think
Okay.
you
take that one.
do that however you do it now.
Yeah, exactly. I think as with any module, this becomes a module dependency question, and you can package it in many different ways or not. So ultimately, it's really you would depend on the LOINC module. That's it.
Okay. And next one, how does the LOINC extension affect the observable content and extensions from other countries? Stan, you want that one, or Rory, you want that? We have more sort of LOINC focused questions.
Yeah, I'll leave the LOINC ones to Stan because I'm not.
Okay.
I'm less esteemed anyway. So I think it doesn't. Is the quick answer. They don't, unless, for example, you want to depend on the LOINC extension in your extension, then of course you need to be very aware about any modeling decisions or new content decisions. But if you're not using a LOINC extension and you're adding pathology content in your own extension, there is no impact.
What if you do want to use the LOINC extension and you have observable content in your extension?
I think you just have to do the analysis of the impact of what the new modeling, what the modeling ends up being in that LOINC extension, or the impact is on the content you have. And there's a little bit of that. One thing that we will be taking learning of this across both teams is if we can improve the base model in the international edition that helps this go forwards, that's part of the work as well, so that we have the model that works for specifically LOINC that comes out of the base core content.
Okay. Thank you. So do we have the next set, or did you include those? No. Okay. So
this is free form.
okay. I have a
Do
few.
you want to let some from the audience?
Yeah. Sure. Why don't we take some from the audience? But I do have a few I'd like to, if we don't hear those, like
Okay.
Jim Campbell.
Excuse me?
Which Jim?
Which Jim?
I'd like to ask the panel how they think this agreement, and of course the subsequent execution, might affect interoperability for LOINC community and SNOMED community members who maintain EHRs.
So, it's a tremendous advantage. I mean, I think an accurate and an appropriate criticism of LOINC has been that it doesn't have an ontology to reason against most things. And part of what we're doing here is not only creating LOINC codes that and SNOMED codes that correspond. But part of this is that all of the parts of LOINC will become SNOMED concepts as well, so that those things are based in the content. A lot of that work, a lot of those things have already been included because of the expression work that was done before. But what it means is that, essentially now there will be a link. So if I'm looking at a laboratory test for COVID, either antibodies or antigens or something else, I can link that directly to that concept in the SNOMED hierarchy, know that organism and find out now how that is defined and what relationships exist for that concept in LOINC. So it allows you now to reason about things in an entirely better way than we've had the opportunity to do before. So it's a tremendous, and I say that, tongue in cheek, because I think that better than anybody else probably in the room, and have actually illustrated that in the work that you've already done. So I think it's a tremendous advantage.
So currently LOINC and SNOMED have different distribution formats. I'm wondering, it may be a little early to decide that, but are there going to be is the existing LOINC and SNOMED format for this going to be maintained, or is there going to be a common format for distribution?
I think over time, I would guess that things might converge initially. And when I say initially, I would say the first 3 to 5 years, I expect that the LOINC distribution will continue, in exactly the same way. And then we'll also have the SNOMED extension. So.
Did you want to take another question in the room? We have some online as well.
Oh, if you have online questions, I have a few more here, but please.
Okay, why don't you ask one of yours and then I'll pop in with some online questions.
So here's one. Will LOINC answer lists and binding strengths be implemented in SNOMED?
We need that. Yeah. And I think people who use the systems would need that as well. And so, but how we do that, I don't know. We've got to figure it out. And there may be things that have already been done that I'm not aware of about how the best way to do that. But my experience has been that, especially with observables, coded observables, if you will, where the answers are textual answers or conceptual answers, you don't usually know what the question means unless you see the answers that people are expecting to that question. And so I think it's essential that we have the ability to also distribute the value sets, if you will, with the concepts and the terminology.
We have a question online from Jay Cola. Fantastic news, clapping hands. Both Regenstrief and SI teams have managed to get stuff done. Love the idea of SNOMED CT enriching the ontology in LOINC. So where do you draw the line about what exists in LOINC? So would panels now be in SNOMED CT too? How does UCOM now be included too? I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
That might, so
we'll table the UCOM discussion for now. We have a lot to think about, and those are great questions. But why don't you take the first part of that question, Stan? Could you read the first part again? Because there's probably 5.
So where do you draw the line about what exists in LOINC?
The scope of LOINC will continue to be observables. And again, if those observables exist already in SNOMED, then those things will be matched up. If they're new, then they're available to be included in the SNOMED ontology. But LOINC's scope, and I assume continued scope, will be observables.
Marjorie, there's one extra one here. It says, will the extension also include the LOINC Radlix playbook?
Yeah, that's a standing word.
So a great question.
Yeah.
There's an agreement between Radlex and RSNA for inclusion of the concepts in Radlex in LOINC. It's a little tricky. Well, first of all, very first thing I would say is that we need to honor the agreement that we have with Radlex. We being in this case LOINC. But the other thing is that Radlex has both observable contents as well as finding and other kinds of concepts of things that you can see in imaging. And we've had discussions with the Radlex folks since we had this agreement in mind. And they're interested in sort of having more discussions to say, can we make that all cohesive? In other words, could we use LOINC for observables where that's appropriate in Radlex, and in other situations where it's findings or other kinds of things, could we put those things in SNOMED? And so it would be essentially there's an opportunity for additional Radlex content to be added to SNOMED as well as LOINC. But that's not a done deal in any sense. We need, again, to honor the current agreement with Radlex. All I can say is that in these early conversations, they've been very open to looking at, if you will, kind of a combined SNOMED LOINC solution that would cover all of the things that they have in Radlex.
Question?
One question over here.
In the survey part of LOINC, there's lots of copyrighted material. And when this LOINC will be an extension in SNOMED, what impact will this have?
I don't think there's any impact, but Stan, would you like to discuss that? I don't think the copyrights.
So
Department
yeah, I
change.
guess, well, I don't know if this is exactly the question you asked, so you can ask, but LOINC will continue to be distributed under the current license, which is basically that it's open, free for use for any purpose. And the LOINC SNOMED extension would be available under the same licensing conditions.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So. Are there any more online questions?
No, a couple of messages of congratulations, which is always nice to see. I
Good.
think Daniel has a question.
Okay.
So another question along the same line. So will there be a LOINC sub-ontology? Maybe I don't know who, like which will be released on the, because like if the extension has one license, but the concepts that are referred to in that extension has another set of license requirements, that might be an issue.
Correct, that might be an issue that we have to work through. So I think it's definitely on our minds using sub-ontology tooling that we have at the moment. I think we have to see what the extent of what that looks like when we're in a position of more finality about what it looks like. So it's on the books to consider, basically.
Are we done? Okay.
Yep.
So yep. So thank you, everyone. This is great. Again, we are thrilled. Both organizations are thrilled with this collaboration. It's important and necessary. And we look forward to beginning the work and then updating you on the work. So thank you very much.